Good evening, everyone. Call to order the October 28th, 2025 Utility Board hybrid meeting. We're here at the community center with one participant remotely. I think first order of business is to call a roll? Elaine or?
I'll do it. Chair Thomas,
Here.
Vice Chair Milton,
Here.
Board Member Lair,
Here.
Board Member Marshall, Board Member Olson. Here. Board Member Poor.
Here, and in fact, nearly there.
Perfect.
All right.
Board Member White.
We have 4 with 1 incoming imminently, so we shall have 5 votes in a few minutes. First order of action is the regular business is to consider the minutes from the previous meeting. Board members, everybody had a chance to review them?
I have reviewed them and I'll move to approve them.
And I'd like to amend them, or second, sorry. And I'd like to amend them. I was actually remotely at the meeting, but I was having technical difficulties, so I missed roll call.
Mr. Roll call. Okay, so we should amend the minute. We'll consider that a friendly amendment, I think, to reflect the fact that he did participate in the previous meeting. Okay, any further discussion of the minutes? Those in favor of approving last meeting's minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and Board Member Poor is joining us now. Come on in. Hi, Geraldine. Okay, second order of business, I guess, is the EMS rate discussion. Turn it over to staff for a brief presentation. Ben?
All right, thank you, Utility Board. Good evening. So for the record, my name is Ben Schumacher, Financial Analyst here at the City of Mercer Island. Go ahead and share my screen, get our presentation up. All right, looks like we can see it. So for our EMS or emergency medical service rate discussion tonight, we have a pretty short slide deck for you, about 6 slides that I'll run you through. We're going to cover a little bit, a brief background of our EMS rates, how they came to be, what they're meant to do, the primary drivers for this rate update, as well as staff's recommendation for this rate. And then we'll have time for questions at the end and throughout. A brief history on these EMS rates. They originated in 1996, so almost 30 years now. They started as the average budgeted salary and benefit costs for 4 firefighting positions. That's what they still are. When we say 4 firefighting positions, that excludes positions like the battalion chief, deputy chief, fire marshal, and assistant fire marshals in Eastside Fire and Rescue, which is where our firefighting staff is currently services are coming from. These 4 additional hires were meant to increase the capacity to handle simultaneous EMS calls during high on-demand periods. The current rate structure that exists originates from the 2011-2012 biennial budget process. It was a council decision at the time to swap from a variable rate structure to the flat rate structure that exists today. All that means is it's the same rate for each customer class. Our 2 predominant customer classes are going to be single-family residential and multifamily residential.
So just a quick question. So just to recap, the purpose of the EMS rate and the rate category is to fund 4 additional emergency services personnel on Mercer Island to handle additional need in peak times.
Yep.
And that's been in place for decades.
Almost 30 years now, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the primary drivers for this rate recommendation, it's really because we're tied to personnel costs. This cost of living adjustment, or COLA, as you'll hear me call it tonight, is our primary driver above anything else. The CPI, or the COLA adjustment that the city and Eastside Fire and Rescue uses for their collective bargaining agreements, is the CPIW Seattle Tacoma Bellevue area June measurement. For 2025, that was 3.6%. I've highlighted June measurement. So for the city and in past rate recommendations, we've The city uses the first half measurement in all of its collective bargaining agreements. So when fire staff was represented by the city, we used this first half measurement. Eastside Fire and Rescue has in their collective bargaining agreement, it is the June measurement. The only difference is really the timing of where that measurement's taken. The June measurement is an average of May and June for a certain fiscal year. The first half is obviously the first 6 months of that fiscal year. The question begs, is one better than the other at measuring this inflationary consumer price index? No, it's a resounding no. The average of these, of both of these measurements over the last 10 years from 2016 through 2025 is the exact same at 3.8%. They really don't differ very much. So one's not inherently more risky than the other. The other primary driver beyond just salary inflate or the salary inflator is going to be our benefit premiums for now the represented Eastside Fire and Rescue staff. For the 2025 revenue requirement that we're seeking a rate adjustment in 2026 for, there was a 4% increase in our medical premiums that we saw, and then a 0% increase in our dental premiums. So I point that out, moving on to the actual rate recommendation, because you'll see it is a bit higher than that 3.6% that's strictly tied to the salary inflator. Staff is recommending a 4.97% increase from the 2025 rates. When you break that down into an actual bill, you're going to see that's represented by a 0.58 or 58 cents every other month, or about 29 cents a month to the end user or to consumers.
So collectively, we're talking around a $3, $4 effect
Per year.
for the year.
And the basis for using 4.97% is?
So that takes into account the increase in revenue requirement from the prior fiscal year. For 2024's revenue requirement, I believe it was something around 756,000. The exact numbers are in the memo. The new revenue requirement is just shy of 800,000. The increase to make up that revenue requirement across all of our equivalent living units or equivalent service units, which is what consists the customer, which is what the customer classes consist of, is
Sorry.
I guess to equal that revenue requirement, we're looking for the 4.97% change across all consumers to be able to make up the difference in those revenue requirements.
Okay, so the 4.97% is so that we can get to the 793,000
Yes,
essentially.
exactly.
And the 793,000 is an estimate because we still don't have a CBA, or did they get a CBA yet?
So still no CBA as of today's meeting. What's on the Eastside Fire and Rescue website expires at the end of 2024. We're assuming for the purposes of this rate that they would just extend it for a year and apply the same wage inflators that they have in their current CBA, which is that June measurement for the CPIW Seattle Tacoma Bellevue area. But no, we haven't heard if there's a
Right,
CBA.
and so that's how you got to the 793 is you're assuming the same multiplier and, okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you.
So with staff recommendation, we'll go ahead and take any more questions that you may have.
Yeah, so I did have a question. So between the 3.6% COLA and the 4% on medical, how exactly did that end up with the 4.97?
Yeah, so
Is it like a off a part of a year or?
so it's more, I thought the best way to describe this is kind of like a pie chart. And so our revenue requirement of the 793,000 is the entire pie chart. Of that 793,000, we have a certain percentage of that pie chart that's coming from the salaries, strictly the salaries of those 4 firefighting positions, the average cost of those 4 firefighting positions. And then say for purpose of discussion, that's 66%, so about 2/3. 2/3 of that revenue requirement is going to be multiplied by the 3.6% as an inflator. And then the remaining 1/3 of that pie chart is really applied or is inflated by the medical premiums or the benefit premiums. In this case, it was just the medical premium really of that 4%. And so the exact, it's not an exact science of you add the percentages together, you multiply it, you get a nice clean percentage. It's really part of the average cost of these firefighting positions is going up based on one metric. Another portion is increasing based on another metric.
Board members, additional questions? I have no more questions. Okay, thank you for the presentation, Ben. Discussion on the rate proposal from staff? Or a motion?
Right, move for approval of the request for the 4.97% increase there.
Craig Olson moves. Is there a second?
Yeah, I can second it.
Second, any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of approving the staff recommendation to increase the EMS rate 4.97%, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's turn to the water rate discussion, correct?
Yes, so I can do, so our water, sewer and stormwater presentation is condensed of what we discussed at the September meeting. I'll go ahead and toss it to our consultants with FCS Group, Angie Vernosh and Chase Bozette, who will run this presentation.
Excellent. So thank you. I'm going to see here how this is doing. Can you see my screen in the presentation?
Yes.
Wonderful. So good evening. Thank you. My name is Angie Sanchez Vernas, principal with FCS, and I'm here with Chase Bazette. We were before you along with staff on September 9th discussing and really having a robust discussion on the presentation in terms of the rate study for this next mid-biennium, rate study update. Today, really, as Ben had mentioned, we want to provide an additional time to allow for additional discussion. We'll provide a brief recap of the findings that were presented in September 9th. And then following that, we will again open it up for discussions in terms of coming to a potential decision in terms of the recommendations for the rates in 2026. In terms of the overall rate study process, just to kind of orient everybody back to the process, in evaluating rates, we are looking at evaluating the sufficiency of each of the utilities on a standalone basis. And so overall, we want to ensure that each utility can fund its overall obligations, meaning, operating, maintenance, capital, debt service, etc. And so some of the key assumptions that we talked quite a bit about last time really centered around kind of these 6 little areas here, which were we use the forecast period of 2025 year to date and 2026 budget as the baseline for the rates that you'll see this evening in terms of when we discuss 2026. Now we do look out further, 2025 to 2030. Essentially what we're trying to do is making sure that, we see what is coming down the road in terms of overall obligations so that we can balance and minimize the overall rate impact to customers, but really the focus will be 2026. We look at our expenses, again, to inflate those particular costs into the future forecast period by various different escalation factors, depending on line items, whether they be budget, labor, wages, benefits, or other expenses. However, some of the utilities, such as the water utility, Seattle Public Utilities water purchases, and the King County Metro sewer treatment charges, are externally driven and are not locally controlled. And so we do our best in terms of looking at historical trends to determine, what those particular costs may be for 2026 and forward, as well as any forecast that may be available. For instance, for King County, they actually have a forecast published. And so we use the best information possible for those externally driven costs. We also look at operating reserves to ensure that we maintain them for fiscally responsible utilities, and that ranges from 30 to 90 days, depending on the particular utility. For customer growth, in terms of revenue growth, we have assumed conservatively no growth assumed in 2026. That will be, revisited in terms of the future time period, but in terms of 2026, no growth has been assumed. Existing debt obligations for the water utility are 2.4 million annually. Sewer is about 1 million annually, and that particular obligation does get eliminated the last year of the forecast in 2030. And then for the stormwater utility, there is no debt. The other major obligation that we talked about last time, and it sounds like city staff has also been having further discussions with the board, is capital projects. And so we really did take a good thorough look at the capital plan in terms of what was used in the fall of 2024, what we look like in terms of 2025 expected, what actually was completed in 24, and then what are the best estimates for the future time period of 2026 to 2030. So again, a very complete picture of what our anticipated obligations are for each of those utilities. We're going to be talking about each of the utilities independently, and so we'll summarize the water utility first, followed by the sewer, and then the stormwater utility. We will take a break after each of the utilities just to provide the boards ample time to ask questions and have some discussion as warranted. So to summarize the water proposal that was presented in terms of September 9th, what you see here on this particular table is a monthly estimate of a single family utility bill. It does assume a 3/4 inch meter and 700 cubic feet of water usage. And so the proposed rate that you see there is 8%, meaning that if for a typical single family bill, it looks like the impact would be about $6.16 per month for that particular monthly bill. We do realize the city receives bills bi-monthly, but we thought we'd break it down in terms of a monthly estimate to kind of make it a little bit more manageable. This particular proposed rate increase is consistent with the 2024 fall recommendations. And so even though, we did update, look at some of the numbers and the capital costs, we did see that 8% proposed rate is still maintained in terms of the trying to move forward the recommended rate increase.
So let me stop you there and ask a question. So in the last year, when the first of the 2 years for the 8% recommendation was first introduced, what was can somebody on staff talk about sort of the utility board discussion and whether council, sort of how the votes went on both of those at the time? I didn't say that very well, but what I mean is just give me a recap of what happened at the board a year ago and at council when they considered the rate request.
Sure. So Jason Kidner, Chief of Operations. So in terms of the conversation around the rate increases in particular, there was quite an extensive conversation actually at the utility board. Spanned, if I recall correctly, 2 or 3 meetings actually. Again, it was much like we presented this year, but spread out perhaps. I think this year the staff did a good job presenting sort of all the information in one packet. Last year we split the rates up. I think on the water side, there's a pretty extensive recent history in terms of like what's driving our capital reinvestment needs, and that's obviously a big component of the rate increase. And so both at the utility board level, but also at the council level, there's been quite a bit of conversation, quite a lot of conversation around those capital reinvestment needs and the focus on the water infrastructure. So although it's 8% and it's a large number, it's never fun. There was an understanding of the board ultimately supported the rate, and as well as the council. So, but it was not without extensive conversation at both at the board and the council level.
Yeah, a lot of healthy discussion about what the utility really needs and whether the rate request was warranted or not.
Correct.
Thank you.
Right, and some concern about increased rates. We've all had concern about the increase in rates.
Absolutely. There's definitely concern about the increased rates, and that's absolutely part of the conversation and the back and forth with staff and providing additional information and documentation along the way as to why it was warranted.
Okay, thank you.
Great. And so really quickly, some of the key drivers that are behind this particular rate increase is, as Jason had mentioned, the near-term capital reinvestment needs and associated debt repayment in terms of making sure that we can continually reinvest in our system as well as complete the capital projects as planned. We do have Seattle Public Utilities water purchases, which again, as mentioned, is an external ownership and control of those particular costs. So locally, the city really does not have control of those particular costs, and that represents about 19% of total annual utility costs. And then finally, that last bullet, the phasing towards system reinvestment funding. And if you recall, we had quite a good discussion on that in terms of really that particular component being the idea that you are able to fund a certain level of your capital infrastructure investment through rates. And so we're not always having to secure, future debt for those particular capital projects, that ultimately over time rates really should support some level of capital reinvestment funding and being able to support the future replacement needs of the utility. And so trying to transition to that also has an impact on our rate proposal. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of stop sharing so that we can go ahead and have a discussion on the water utility proposal that was presented last time and then summarized today.
Board members, questions for staff or discussion of the rate proposal?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah.
So on the water purchased for resale, this is in the item, I'm not sure if it's item 2 or item 3 of the, it says item 2 in the upper right hand corner and then item 3 in the upper right hand corner. But anyway, on the 2025-26 operating budget for water rates and on the water purchased for resale, there's an increase. It's not very much. It's only 3.5%. But the customer base, we're assuming no customer growth. So what's driving the increase for water purchased for resale? Are people using more per capita?
Is it also a rate increase from SPU?
I was, Angie shaking her head, yes.
Yes, yeah, so there are some increases for the, any type of known increases or historical trends that those particular external costs have generally been running. And so for Seattle Public Utilities, those are about the 5% increase in rates.
So the water purchase for resale, that's just an increase in cost from Seattle.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Other questions? I do have questions about the capital program budget. Just to kind of, that, which is, I guess, table, it's the second table of item 3, right?
Yeah.
Right.
As I understand it, we are essentially funding in rates, any CapEx that's anticipated to be below, is it 2.5 million? We're doing directly through rates, and then the assumption is anything at 2.5 million or more will be funded through debt. And then the debt service is built into the rates. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so things like the 2024 PRV station construction and the 2024 water system improvement construction, is that being built into current rates or is that flowing through debts? It's
Yeah, well, that's no problem.
because we're talking about a bond in 2027 potentially, right? So I'm trying to square the two. Sorry, Matt.
He wants to talk anyways.
Are we on? Okay.
Yep.
Good evening, Utility Board. This is Matt Mornick, your Finance Director. In October of 2024, after having a healthy discussion with the Utility Board throughout that year, that calendar year, the direction we received from the Utility Board was really to enact an effort to spread out the costs of these significant capital improvements. And so the staff team sold 26.6 million in limited tax general obligation bonds.
Right.
That funded a suite of projects that were on our immediate and near-term horizon. I don't have that list in front of me right now, but I can circle back and share that list. What we ended up doing is taking on that debt and committing to the next 20 years of paying it down.
Right.
And so that essentially kept the annual rate adjustments for the water utility at 8%. If we had not gone with that approach, we would have been looking at annual rate adjustment increases that were markedly higher. And so we have invested quite a bit of that money, over $10 million. And we have a time horizon of investing all of that money by November 2027, at least 85% of it based on federal tax laws. So we're working diligently to make those investments and complete that capital work. And as Ben noted, in September, we have already seen an uptick in our capital spending for the water utility relative in 2025, relative to the same period in 2024, over $4.5 million more, I believe, in the first 9 months of the year of 2025. So work is
Unexpected things that happen, unexpected breakages and stuff, this increase in spending?
I'll let Jason speak to the breakages and the financial impacts of that. But really what I'm referring to is that the capital work, the long range capital work and the capital improvement program, it's costing more and there's more happening. There's more project work that's underway than I think has ever been before in recent memory.
Yeah, it's that once in a lifetime generational reinvestment that you're seeing. As I've talked about before, our existing infrastructure is I mean, it's unique to Mercer Island. It's unique. The type of infrastructure we have is unique to us. The complexity of some of it, but it's every municipality, every utility district is going through similar things where construction was originated in the '60s, late '50s and '60s, and it's coming to age. And so I will say, perhaps one of the key changes over the recent years has been the diversification of how that, on the water side in particular, how that capital reinvestment is being used. So it's not just going to substandard water main replacements or water main replacements projects. It's going to the AC mains, it's going to the PRVs, pressure reducing valves. It's going to the reservoir tanks. It's going to a booster chlorination station. It's going to upgrading our SCADA system. So it's a much broader look at reinvesting in our infrastructure, perhaps than it was maybe 10 years ago. That said, it's the body of work in front of us on the water side has been extensive. I will say, as we talked about with the council last week, if you've had a chance to go back and review that council meeting, or if you've read the materials, you know, we talk about it. I think the water side we're plateauing. We're getting through a lot of this big work. That doesn't mean there's not work to be done. I would say the volume of work on the water side is starting to flatten out a bit, and maybe coming back to a more realistic year by year basis. But there's an asterisk to it, and the asterisk is we still run a sewer and stormwater system. And I will tell you, the sewer side is going to have some. You think these numbers are big? I'm not trying to scare you. Our sewer side is very complex. It's unique. We have a lake line. We have 17 pump stations. That in itself, there's unknowns associated with just our existing infrastructure that we have to start working through. We actually have an agenda bill going to the council on the 4th. That's that first sort of piece to that puzzle that we're going to start working through. But I would say the reinvestment strategies are going to shift probably a bit in the near future. You're going to go from the water to the sewer side. That's a challenging conversation given the discussion that's taking place at the county level, right, and the regional level, when we have our own needs on the infrastructure side of the house. So in terms of the debt issuance, Matt was referring to the number of projects. We worked closely with the finance team to identify those projects in that time frame to make sure that we had put projects in that bucket that we're going to get done within that time frame. So one of the other pieces we've done on the capital side is we're trying to plan ahead, right? So we're doing a lot of planning, design, engineering work up front, and then come to construction a year or 2 years later, right? This sort of cyclical nature that we're doing. And so we made sure that the projects that were identified were fit within that time frame so that we met our obligations and requirements set forth in that issuance. And so that list shifted a little bit over time as we were finding the right sort of list of projects, but all that work is underway. And as we presented to the council last week, the team is working really hard and getting a lot of work done right now. It's pretty amazing.
So to kind of characterize the two things that are happening in the water utility is we have increased break fix where things are happening, water main breaks and other things that are happening with more frequency due to the aging infrastructure. And we're taking concrete steps, maybe not solid steps to improve the underlying infrastructure with, as they said, one-time major system improvements. And we're doing all that with an eye to sort of levelize the way capital investment is viewed financially within the city. We're using debt to take on and smooth out the effects of those investments over time on ratepayers. Unfortunately, it still produces a fairly substantial rate request for the water utility at this point in time, given where we are in the life cycle of the current facilities and when the infrastructure first went in.
Correct. That's a great way of summarizing it. And I'm going to tell Alan to plug his ears because he hates us talking about the water main breaks. But just for you all to know, we're at 16 main breaks this year. And it's just now, we're not even in November yet. We were sort of doing an over/under estimation on the rest of the year. I say we're going to be close to 2021 by the time the end of the year hits, which is really, really high number. So that's abnormal. That's not good. There's lots of things that go along with those main breaks, but it shows that we have issues in our system that we have to address.
Yeah, I'm smiling because we had one on my little street a couple of weeks ago and I got to see Alan's people. They were great. They were there on Saturday and Sunday morning and we didn't have our water shut off for very long. It was all handled very well. I'm very happy to say. Can I ask a kind of just to educate me question on the capital program budget? And that is, So in the it's a 25-26 budget, and I see 2025 AC main replacement, for instance. And it says, 1,067 for 2025, and then it says 4,633 for 26. But then there's also a 2026 AC main replacement that says 596. And so is it that we thought we were gonna do, I'm trying to understand the line that says 2025 AC main replacement, 1,067, and then 4,633.
It's a great question. So that's a program. So we had, just under 5 miles of AC main in
Uh-huh.
our water system.
Right.
And 2 cycles ago, the council, we went to the council, the utility board, to add a program to the CIP that basically says, hey, we're going to eliminate all this AC pipe in our distribution system over the course of the next 6 years. So those different line items you see there are different projects. So we design a project in year 1 and we construct it in year 2. And so it's this sort of constant cycle. And at the end of that 6-year cycle, we'll be out of AC mains in our distribution system, which is a fantastic thing because they're very prone to failure and catastrophic failure at that. So
And
That is the
how far along are we in that 6-year?
this is 2 years, 3 years? Yeah, they were on phase 2. So we're almost halfway.
But so is the 4,633 under the 2025 line, under the 2026 column. Those are things from 2025 that didn't quite get done yet.
Different project. Yep.
And then the 596 for the AC main replacement under 2026, that's a different project?
Correct. So
Okay.
the segments of pipe are located in different parts of the city. So we plan them as
Okay.
individual projects. So it's not just one continuous length of pipe. It's sections.
Right,
all
right.
in-
And
Throughout
this
the
is a
city.
reflection of different projects. Okay,
Correct.
thank you. I just didn't fully understand that.
And just for everyone's knowledge, the water supply line, the big project that we're scheduling for next year, that also includes not only the main transmission line being replaced, but also an AC pipe being replaced next to it. That's already on the plan. So try
Thank
and
you.
do 2 things at once.
Let me just clarify. Can you say AC? Explain.
Asbestos cement pipe.
Asbestos.
Steve?
Yeah, actually, Matt, just to verify that I understood what you were talking about, the $4.5 million of additional project, investment that we're making so far in 2025. The bulk of that number you're saying is basically the projects that are on the plan and that are part of the long-term obligation bonds that are actually being successfully implemented towards that limit that we have to come up with in the next couple of years, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Board members? Any further discussion?
Just, I guess, thanks for the staff for putting this together. We went through a lot of it on the last meeting, and so there's probably less discussion on it this time than since we already talked through a lot of this previously. So, thanks.
I second that, even though it's not a motion, I second it. It's the amount of information you've furnished and the way you've answered questions, we really appreciate. It's complex. We are not financial auditors here.
Or utility
Or
experts.
forensic accountants or anything to that extent. We're citizen volunteers trying to do what we can for our community. So we really appreciate the forthrightness and the clarity on all of the information you provided. Makes our job a little bit easier. A lot easier. So with that, shall we move to a motion regarding the proposed rate increase for the water utility?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept the staff's recommendation of an 8% utility rate increase for the water services for fiscal year 2026.
Is there a second?
I can second that too.
Meredith seconds. Any discussion? I will support this wholeheartedly. All those in favor of approving and recommending to the city council the 8% recommended rate increase for the water utility, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Just a quick comment. I think we talked about this at the last meeting. I know we line item out the King County sewer charges, but didn't we also talk about some additional communication about the King County sewer charges that are being increased that we're having to pass on?
Yeah, so
And is the answer yes, and you've already done it? You can say that.
the answer is yes, we will be doing it as part of a larger outreach efforts, but we will certainly make sure that the community knows that, you know, this is the King County sewer pass-through charges are higher than normal, higher than originally anticipated. That'll be part of our communication effort that we can work with our communication department.
But those ones show up on the utility bill, right? As opposed to the Seattle public utilities or the Seattle water version, which isn't line itemed on it.
Right.
So I think maybe that was the one we were talking about that should be maybe messaged out as it's not just city costs that are going up, it's also the pass-through costs.
Yeah, we'll just mention too, there's we have a table at the end of the presentation. It's kind of like a summary to pull out charges on a bill by ownership. So the King County Metro is pretty, the sewer metro is pretty self-explanatory. We did try to do the same thing with the SPU charges, and we'll see that a little bit later.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped into sewer.
Perfect segue.
That
Meredith,
is a perfect segue if you're ready to move on.
he's driving the train now, so that's okay. Yeah, let's,
Excellent.
does anybody need a break or can we move on? Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, so now we are at the sewer rates, which again, wonderful segue to the discussion that was just had. So in terms of King County, yes, this particular charge is something that your customers will see on their bill, and it does create quite a significant addition to the local charges. So when we think about King County, these are, you know, externally owned and controlled charges. Why we wanted to, again, bring this particular slide back from the September 9th discussion is that during the previous rate study, you can just kind of see there in the table at the very top says previous, we had a forecast from King County Metro that was much more moderated than really what we're looking at today. So the ranges were for 26 through 37% to 8.25%. The most recent forecast that we had received from King County Metro, you can see the 2026 didn't change significantly, it went from 7 to 7.5, but 27 to 2030 are now in double digit type of territory. And so that does create a significantly more, you know, impact in terms of the total bill to our customers, something again that is external, that locally we cannot control. And so that's just something important to again point out as we start moving forward and showing you kind of the impacts to the sewer bill, really what is controllable versus externally really out of our control in terms of those sewer costs.
So let's talk about this for a minute. So what's been the time frame from the previous forecast to the update for, and what's the method of communication? Is this like informal discussions? Is there some formal notice regarding, how does the process work with King County?
So as you saw in the matrix, King County actually last year, as part of their sewer conversation, they actually projected pretty substantial, pretty significant rate increases. They actually, after a lot of feedback from the surrounding communities, they actually backed off their proposed sewer rate a bit and dropped it a little bit. But they have been discussing their anticipated costs, their increasing costs for quite a while now. The city is part of.
So these are informal meetings with the cities in King County where they're sort of talking through. what
They have a formal forum to the MUPAC, which is the Metropolitan, so I can't.
Water Pollution Abatement Advisory Committee. I had to look that up.
Perfect. Thank you, Angie. So those are actually formal meetings that are held. We have representatives from the city and council members that are liaisons to those meetings where they've been talking about the different rate forecasts, the different needs within the sewer system that are driving those costs. And so it is a formal environment. They have feedback, they hear feedback from others. I will say MUPAC took a vote on the proposed rate increase. The members sent a letter to the county saying, hey, this rate increase is really, really high. There's concern about pricing out or, you know, basically out taxing the local jurisdictions and their ability to get things done.
So the cities voted and adopted some messaging back to King County regarding the scope of the increases,
Correct.
including this most recent updated forecast.
Correct. And so the word back this year was to say, we understand that you need this rate increase for the time being. However, future years need to be considered in a different context. We want further conversation, further discussion. There needs to be a bigger look, a bigger review of what those rate increases are going to drive. So
Okay.
ultimately, they move forward with a rate recommendation. that you're seeing here, but future discussions around future rates are still to be determined. But they are done in a formal process through the MUPAC committee.
Okay.
Do the customers or the cities have any leverage over King County? I mean,
Good question.
is there anything,
Yeah,
I mean, other than screaming? Is there
So
anything-
we are working with our partners to push back, and, you know, again, it's that concern that they're gonna out-tax their, you know, all the local jurisdictions for our ability to do, as you heard me talk about earlier, like, we have some significant sewer impacts and sewer needs on our side that are gonna cost us money. The lake line, that word should scare everybody. It's a sewer pipe in the lake that requires really challenging permitting, and there's a lot of unknowns to it. Like, those are all big, unfortunately, there's dollar signs associated to it. So we are working with the Sound Seas Association to partner with our local partners to try and work with the county. I don't want to say fight the county, because we understand they have needs, but work with the county to balance their approach, you know, make sure that well, what they are proposing is reasonable and equitable. And so that's part of the conversation. So we're working with our partners where possible.
But the bottom line is the cities don't have approval power over the King County.
Correct.
Dictates the rate that flows through to Mercer Island customers as well as to the other cities.
Correct.
So we can make noise, we can scream, we can do other things, but ultimately we don't have a firm say in what those rates are that are passed through.
Correct.
Right, and they're gonna always have pressures to push costs off other customers.
Correct.
Okay. Would it be helpful
May I?
for?
I
Yes,
want to
of
clarify
course. No,
your,
of course.
so I thought when you first asked that you were asking what the difference was between the timing of the gray line and the timing of the
I am
blue
gonna
line?
get back to
Oh,
that. Yeah,
good,
yeah,
okay.
that's, yeah, I wanted to kind of, I'm interested in sort of how much leverage we have or don't have, but I also want to understand the messaging from the county to us. Like, how surprised are we? Or how effective has their messaging been, or is it lame, so to speak, you know? So I appreciate that.
I'll say, as your public works director, was I surprised to see a rate increase? No. Given the challenges they've had with their infrastructure, I wasn't surprised to see a rate increase. Was I surprised at the
Percentage.
size of it? Yes, absolutely. As was everybody else.
I mean, year over year, double-digit increases in 2027 and beyond, that's unfathomable at this point.
I agree. Challenge that we face is we are 100% reliant upon King County for their wastewater treatment. I mean, all of our sewage goes off the island to King County.
And so with the gray line, did they have a more extreme increase projected, and then that changed after the input from the customers?
From
With the-
cities?
the previous,
The updated version is based off of their infrastructure needs. So if you recall, they've had some significant issues, some overflows that have happened in the Seattle area that have, you know, unfortunately, emergencies do drive costs up, right? When emergencies happen, you have consent decrees or orders that are requirements to get done. You have to
From
follow through
ecology, right?
From
From
ecology.
state.
So they're under orders to get things done, and that's what they're doing as well. Their infrastructure is complex, it's large, like there's no sugarcoating that either. They have the work cut out for them.
And this is probably a dumb question, but the rate increases that they're proposing are uniform amongst all the city participants in the system, right? Or
Correct.
there's no rates for Mercer Island versus rates for Bellevue versus rates for Redmond or anything like that.
Yeah, they're uniform.
Okay. Other questions?
If there's, there's also still more,
Oh, yeah.
well, I'd be interrupted, Angie.
Back to you, Angie.
Okay, great. So next slide. So again, we wanted to make sure that, you know, we were using the best information for King County Metro simply because it does comprise a significant portion of the total bill that the customer does see. So as we break the sample single family bill out here, again, you have the historical periods and the proposed rate for 2026. Our local bill is at the top, and so as you can see here, the proposal moves from 65.65 in 2025 to 68.28, which is about a 4% increase. What I would like to make of note is that the historical was about the 4.5% increase back in the fall of 2024. We had anticipated that that increase would also in 2026 be 4.5 with the work and the updating that we have done with staff this year. Again, some of that work being really trying to, refine the capital improvement plan and looking at overall costs. We were able to shave a little bit off there. So the proposal now is 4% for this particular year in 2026 from the 4.5 of last fall. That equates to about a $2.63 local sewer bill. What you'll notice, however, is that 7.5% of the external metro bill that we would be impacted by is $4.38 for that increase. And so of the $7.01, they definitely take up the majority of that overall increase. And so just wanted to make sure that we pointed that out. So again, our local impact to the bill is much less than what the metro bill is actually to the total sewer family bill that they will see. And again,
Right.
some of the key drivers there is, again, as we talked about, really the capital improvement plan and trying to phase and make sure that we're being mindful of the infrastructure investment and being able to fund system reinvestment in the future. So making sure we have a proper balance there. But again, no doubt about it, that King County bill does have a major impact on the total.
Okay. Questions, Steve?
Yeah, so Angie, on the proposed for 4% for 2026, on some of the other slides, we'd seen what the proposed look like out over the next few years. Is that basically like a 4% flat increase over the next few years that's anticipated, or is that coming back around to our discussion on future investment in the lake line and things like that, that'll be higher than 4% going forward?
Yeah, back in the September 9th, it looked like we had anticipated continuing that 4%.
Okay, so coming down from an anticipated 4.5% out to a 4% anticipated out, but still separate of the future reinvestment priorities.
Right.
Other questions? I've got a few on the capital plan.
Go ahead.
Okay. I can stop sharing again. This is the last slide on that if you'd like to.
No, that's all right. That's all
Okay.
right. So, Jason and company, on the capital plan, we've got pump station rehabilitation of 2.6 million this year and 2.7 next year. We're slowly replacing and upgrading pump stations around the lake, correct?
Correct.
And that will continue for 5 to 10 years.
At least. And so I think that's going to be one of the key questions. So we have, I will say on November 4th, we actually have a council agenda bill going that we're reallocating some of the sewer funds. And that is, we actually have an order from the Department of Ecology that says we have some work to get done. And we've had, over the last 5 years, we've had a number of overflows on the east side of the island, pump station 23, 25, where we've reported it. It happens during wet weather events. Usually, it has to do with the infrastructure. We didn't install the infrastructure. Unfortunately, we have to do something with it now. And so we're reprioritizing the work. This work was originally planned for the 27-28 biennium. We're moving it up to meet the timeline associated with the Department of Ecology. What does that mean? On the sewer side, I will say, we've done some work to upgrade our SCADA system. We use data to drive that decision making. And so a lot of the work that's taking place right now is evaluating that system, evaluating the pump stations, evaluating the lake lines. The general sewer plan is being updated as well. It'll be updated over the course of the next year, 2 years. That will plan for our 20-year reinvestment strategy in the sewer system, which will help identify how quickly we upgrade all these pump stations. Originally, it was planned for 1 pump station, 2 pump stations every couple of years.
Right.
That may change as we go through the general sewer plan, but that's what we're thinking. I will say the big unknown is the lake line, right? What is
The reaches,
what
right?
what does it look like? What is the remaining useful life of that lake line? How does that drive the rest of the capital program? We can't just throw a bunch of capital projects on the list and say we're going to get it done. It comes down to human power as well, right? It takes the engineers and the project team to do the work. And right now we have a capital program that's right sized for a team. I don't see our team growing exponentially over the next few years. And so we're going to right size the capital program to align with our resources as well. So it's a combination of things, but the work that we're doing in the sewer system right now over the course of the next 1 to 2 years is going to drive that future decision making, that future conversation around rates and what it looks like.
Jason, can you give me a 2-minute, because I know that this is more like a 5-hour conversation. A 2-minute version of how do we evaluate or know how good the lake line is or isn't?
That is the $1 million question. I kid you
I mean, you
not.
said that and I can
Yeah, so
appreciate the
if you go back,
catastrophic.
yeah.
It's
potential
literally
there.
$1 million
It
question.
literally
That's
is
why I got
a multi-million-dollar
$30
question.
I mean, you know,
I would encourage you, if you get a chance to go back and watch the council meeting from last week, because there's a couple of pictures I think that are worthy of looking
Okay.
at. Right now, we have 17 pump stations. We can get plus or minus 200 feet from each side. But there's a lot more lineal foot between those pump stations, between 200 feet on each side. Everything in between, we don't know. And so that's the challenge. How do you get in? How do you get into that pipe? How do you take a coupon from that pipe? How do you look, how do you inspect it? How do you maintain it? How do you figure out what the remaining useful
we're
life
not running
is?
cameras or whatever.
Not yet.
It's all
Can't.
underwater.
We can't,
Yeah.
So that's part of the work, right? And so that's the work that's in front of us now, is to start with one of the reaches, reach one, and look at it. I will say the good news is that debt issuance that's coming off the table in 2030, that was reach 3 that was replaced in 2010 timeframe. So that's good news. We've done one of the 4. But that's the rest of the remaining useful life is the big question that we're looking into and trying to figure out. And so that will be something we will definitely be talking with you all about in the future years, and how we get into it, how we maintain it, what does that maintenance history look like moving forward? Those are the big questions.
But this CIP that's built into rates that the council has been considering and actively questioning about, this is a down payment, a big down payment, substantial move towards addressing, our ability to assess the quality of our infrastructure, something that we haven't heretofore had. I mean, we have some ability to do that, but we could definitely improve it, and that will help us tailor our capital investments in the future as narrowly as possible to save costs, or to focus on the areas where the most likely failure would occur. But the goal of all of these investments is to prevent a catastrophe. And we've managed to dodge that. We've had some issues on the island, but there's always that potential. So these investments are necessary to ensure the integrity of the utility.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. I'll say there's some new technologies that are being tried as well. So that's one thing to our advantage, is there might be some new techniques, some new applications that we could explore as part of this work. Something we'll be looking at. It's, if you're in the sewer industry, this is actually pretty exciting and cool. If you're an engineer and want to nerd out on it, there's a lot of opportunity to do that here. There's a lot of unknowns that we have to work through, and there's no textbook on how to do it. So we're going to figure it out along the way. And we have a great project team that has some experience with other lake lines. There are some other folks that have lake lines, slightly different than ours, but there is some experience out there as well that we're tapping into as well.
Other questions, board members?
Well, kudos for taking it down to 4% from 4.5%. Too bad we have to work with King County. Or that they have such difficult situations.
Okay.
I guess just one
go ahead.
small question, or just one of the projects on here was the Lake Line Reach 1 capacity improvements. So just out of curiosity, is that a pretty major opportunity in the short term to get a look inside one of these and actually do some analysis?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're starting with, the Reach One project. That's part of the work we're doing right now. So
Gotcha.
you will definitely be updated once our project team gets on board. Like I said, it's going to the council next week, and hopefully they'll approve it, and we'll get off and running, and we'll be back in front of you with what we know, what we learn, what do we know, what's the future entail. Like, those are all conversations we'll be having with the utility board and council along the way as well. So it's gonna be fun. I mean, it'll be fun, I promise. It'll be exciting.
Oh, yeah, it'll be interesting. Sure.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion on the sewer utility rate proposal. My turn. I'll move adoption of the staff recommendation to reduce this proposed rate increase from 4.5% to 4% for the 2026 sewer rate proposal.
Second?
Second by Craig. Any discussion? All those in favor of supporting the motion, say aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. We're rolling.
Okay.
Angie,
Moving on.
you're back
to
on the
the-
hot seat.
Moving on to the next utility, so the stormwater rates. Here, in terms of this particular utility, again, very similar format to the others, is you have your table here, 21 through 26. The proposed rates being 2507 currently being paid by customers would increase to 2658 or $1.51 overall sample single family bill impact, translates to about 6%. What we'll note here is that you can see the trend line of 23, 24, and 25. We're at 8%. We had anticipated last fall that would also continue the 8%. But again, with the work with this mid-biennial review period and really refining the capital completion assumptions, basically that meaning we're right-sizing the capital program to staff as well as recognizing their other utility priorities. So being realistic to really what could be accomplished with the stormwater utility, it did allow city staff to reduce that proposal from 8% to 6%.
This is a change in the capital completion assumption. Is that pushing some work to the other utilities and reallocating resources, or is it because a lot of the stormwater work is tailing off? What's the primary driver?
Great question. So we've actually had a couple of staff vacancies. We actually lost a staff member to King County. We've had some other departures. So we don't have a lot of staff on deck just to fill the gap. So it takes a little time to recruit, fill the positions. I'm happy to report we have the positions filled now. Our last project manager is coming on board in the next couple of weeks, which is great news, but it causes a shift in things. We have to shift priorities. Right now, the water and the sewer side are the priorities. And so we're trying to make sure that, not that stormwater is only priority, but in terms of the body of work, where the projects are at and their timing, the water and sewer are the focus. The stormwater work, usually in the planning phase, it also requires some additional permitting, which takes a little time because it's outside agency permitting, which can be very long at times. Craig's laughing. He knows the pain I'm talking about. So sort of a combination of things of shuffling the deck with some internal staff resources, but also just where the projects are lining up in terms of getting permits in hand and our constructability and timing to that for that work to get done. Because it can be subject to specific times throughout the course of the year based off the permits. So combination of both.
Okay, thank you. Angie?
Just
Oh,
one moment.
Matt.
This is Matt Marnick, Finance Director. Just a point of clarification to a comment that you made. I just want to clarify that the resources for the stormwater utility are in the stormwater fund. It is an
Yes.
enterprise fund. And just
Yeah.
to clarify that there's no commingling of resources across the utility funds.
Okay.
So any resources that go unspent within a fiscal year remain in the fund for future use.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
I just had a question on the, I guess the forecast of a lower percentage in future years as well. If the staff positions are being refilled, wouldn't we assume that we'd be coming back up to speed and getting more of those programs in those out years?
Remember that priority thing I just said?
Okay. So,
Water
gotcha.
and sewer they're really strong.
Okay.
They're, just with the water reinvestment piece right now being sort of full tilt, knowing that sewer is ramping up and that we have some pretty critical deadlines to meet, that those are going to be, in terms of our staffing model, they're just going to get, those positions and projects are going to get prioritized right now over the stormwater work. Stormwater work can still happen simultaneously. Stormwater stuff can be sort of filled in throughout the course of the year, as we're keeping things moving. Once you get into construction, that's a little bit different, but, we try and prioritize and plan that way accordingly. And so that's what we're projecting in the out years as well.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Angie?
This was the final slide on stormwater. We have a summary, so if you want to discuss stormwater at this time, that would be a good time to do so.
Questions? Yes.
Could you give us a highlight on some of the top projects in the capital plan? What I'm seeing is like the stormwater system improvements, and the various water course improvements seem to be the big ticket items.
Yep, that's fair. Again, I'll reference you back to the council meeting that we did on Tuesday. There, we talked about sort of the stormwater projects, but yeah, your summary is correct. A lot of the water course improvements, a lot of times those are running through our open space areas, and so we're coordinating with our open space team along the way. Sometimes those require some additional permitting and timing associated with that body of work with those outside agencies like Department of Fish and Wildlife. There's always a component on the stormwater side that ties to streets. So if you want to fast forward to the spring conversation with our transportation improvement program, I know it's not utility based, but there's still more work tied to the street work 99% of the time. And so that includes, you know, replacing catch basins, upsizing pipe. Brian in the back here, he can talk about some of the work his team is doing in terms of relining pipes, replacing things.
Inspections.
Lots of inspections. Yep. How many catch basins? Over 5,000 catch basins? So it's a combination of, you know, the stormwater side is they tend to be a little smaller projects than the water and sewer. That's not it's not a bad thing. They can still be complex though. I will say on the stormwater side too, and Brian can speak to this, but it can be a little bit more challenging. Water and sewer is pretty straightforward in terms of knowing who the owner is. On the stormwater side, we actually have conveyance systems that move between public and private and back to public again. So there's some additional challenges sometimes with some of those projects, but in terms of the capital work, yeah, the water course work, the street related work, the conveyance improvements, things like that.
And so that does sound interesting to watch the council meeting. Number 7 is water course condition update. Is that a plan? Is that a system plan? Okay.
Yep, that is a specific basin update. So one of the water courses, I don't know which one is off the top of my head.
Okay.
So each of the project IDs are individual projects around the island.
Correct.
So it's not a category of costs. It's a description of individual projects.
Correct.
Okay. Brian's been busy. Other questions?
And so one other question, so the lack of certain ones in 2026, that's just staff prioritize what you were talking about previously, you just don't have enough staff to do everything.
Yeah, and a lot of times especially in development years, 2026 is a budget development year, so we try and lighten some of the load a little bit on the construction capital side, just to align with the competing city needs as well. So there's quite a bit of work that takes place with our project team and the finance team to develop the budget for the next biennium as well. So usually the second year tends to be a little bit lighter in the biennium construction wise, usually, not always.
Okay. Additional questions? Board members, no? Good, okay. Is there a motion on the rate proposal, the reduced rate proposal from 8% to 6%?
Yeah, so make a motion to accept staff's recommendation for 6% utility rate increase for the stormwater services for a recommendation to the council.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Geraldine. Geraldine seconds. Any discussion? Those in favor of approving the motion to recommend a 6% rate increase to the sewer utility, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Motion carries. All right, back to our agenda. Well, that was tough. Oh, there's other business here. Chief of Operations report. Is that you?
This is Ben Schumacher, financial analyst. I think we did have one more or a couple more slides to review
Yeah,
very quickly.
sure. There's a couple
Oh,
more
I see.
slides.
All right.
Thank you, Angie.
right.
Just again
Jump the gun.
bring it all together for everyone in terms of the water, sewer, stormwater combined proposed monthly single-family bill impacts as noted and discussed this evening. The proposal for the water utility was an 8% increase, so maintaining the fall 2024 increase. On the sewer side, local side, a reduction of what would had been presented in fall of 2024 to 4% instead of 4.5. Passing through the metro increase, and so it is an increase of that 7.5% or $4.38. And finally, the stormwater utility, a decrease of the previous 8% for the proposed 2026 rate. And so in combination for that monthly single family bill impact, you can see there it's about $14.68 in terms of bringing them all together, with that, you know, King County Metro and some of the SPU costs a little bit higher, which we tried to isolate in this next slide just to kind of give folks an idea of kind of what we're looking at. So when we look at this, it's kind of really by ownership. So when we say ownership, it's kind of locally owned and controlled versus external ownership and control with SPU and King County. And so what we have here is the water bill kind of broken out between what we believe is local control versus the representative Seattle Public Utilities, breakout. Sewer, again, local here, sewer metro, you can see in this particular column, and then stormwater local. So in combination, you can kind of see what that local controlled bill is versus what, again, is external ownership and control for the total utility bill. And so about 32%, of that bill is really externally controlled in terms of when we're looking at what customers are seeing in terms of their bill impact.
But Angie, this is a 1 month bill, right?
It is a 1 month bill. Yep, monthly.
We all, and you said this, and we all know that we get this as a 2 month bill. And so these are, and can you go back to the previous slide?
Yeah.
I mean, we all just voted for this. I understand the reasons for it, but it's really very difficult because we have had such utility increases in the 2 month bills in like the last 5 years.
Sure.
I mean, it is big numbers. I think we have the city has our work cut out for us to really communicate what's going on to our customers. Because it's, you know, it's significant, it's meaningful.
Absolutely.
Totally agree. Well, good point.
And so again, in terms of next steps, again, this evening, we appreciate the robust discussion and questions, allowing you to kind of provide some recommendations moving forward to council for the 2026 water, sewer, and stormwater rate adjustments. And the recommendation will be brought forward for council review and adoption, tentatively set scheduled for December 2nd, 2025.
Oh, it's not the November 18th?
It changed.
Okay.
I'll speak with you afterwards.
Okay. I guess I'll cancel that trip.
We have options, don't worry.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Angie, for your presentation.
Yes,
And
thank you all for your time, much appreciated.
I just want to say to the board, the questions were great, and I think it's fantastic that it was a unanimous vote on all of these rate increases, and I definitely share your assessment that these are difficult decisions. It is tough on the community to raise rates. We all know we're facing inflation and other things, but we also have underlying infrastructure to protect, and that's the harsh reality that faces Mercer Island at this point. So, but the messaging is important, including the parts that are ours and the parts that aren't. So we'll continue to work with all of you on that going forward. And yes, we have some hard things headed our way.
Yeah.
On that note,
I have one order of business. So if you looked at the work plan, sorry, it's on your packet. We got our business done early. So we technically don't have to meet in November, and December was a recess. However, I'm going to throw you a curveball. We need to meet one more time. And that is, we have an updated SPU contract. So we're going to touch the SPU contract twice. We have an updated contract. There's a standard reopen. There's 2 reopeners as part of the original contract language. It's been open for a couple of years now. They finally have a drafted agreement that's ready to be approved. The good news is there's the true up is going to be favorable to us in the contract, and so there'll be a little bit of money that comes back to the city out of part of this true up exercise. So that'll be part 1. So we'll bring that amended contract to you all and then take it to the council, hopefully before the end of the year, so that we can receive some of that benefit. The part B of the conversation will be next year though. So we are currently working on our new water supply line, and it's at 60% design again. Council meeting on Tuesday night, we did a presentation on it, but it does include the transferring of assets, SPU assets on the island to the city. And so we will be modifying the contract right behind the amended contract going, the amended contracts to every utility. Our amended contract will be specific with us. And so the first bite should be housekeeping. The second item will be a little bit more intense as we talk about the transfer of assets and what the value of those assets are and things like that. That'll be a conversation that carries throughout the 2026 years, part of a pretty consistent work plan item as we go forward. So
The first bite is just approving something related to the true up.
it's a amended contract. There's some small changes in the contract. It does revolve around the true up a bit. The second one will be a meatier discussion because that's specific to the assets on the island and the transferring of those assets, because there's a monetary value associated with those existing assets. So
Okay.
you get two bites of the apple. The first one is tied to the true up exercise. They refine some of their language in the true up that.
So are we going to be asked to approve and recommend to the council?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So the challenge though is the November meeting, the second meeting in Tuesday in November is actually Veterans Day. And that is
That's
not
the
gonna work.
18th.
It's the 11th is the second Tuesday in November.
Okay.
So we will have to find a special meeting between now and early December. Thanksgiving's mixed in there. So we can do it in November or we can do it in early December. Is there a preference from you all? And we'll look for a specific date, but is there?
Maybe a mild preference for November, I would say, because Thanksgiving's late, and that means there's a short period of time between Thanksgiving and the rest of the holidays.
I have one trip. We could do. Oh, come on.
We'll send out a doodle poll, but if
Yeah,
I'm sort
I-
of hearing maybe trying to fit it in November if possible, seeing the head nods rather than December. Okay,
That's fine. Yeah.
okay. That's it for me.
Just out of curiosity, what's the size of that contract?
You talking financial?
Less than
or
300
page?
pages?
I think it's less than 300 pages.
I wouldn't distribute it then a couple of days before the meeting. Okay. All right. Is that your chief of operations report?
That is, thank you.
All
Can I
right.
just clarify? So there is a meeting scheduled for the 9th of December, and we're talking.
So 9th of November, the 9th of December will be a recess date. So we're gonna do a special meeting between now and the
Then
9th. Yep.
And
We'll
some
look
of
for
us
late
were thinking
November.
the 17th, the third week.
Yeah, that's the one I can't do.
Okay, we'll send out a straw
I
poll.
could be on virtually, but
Yeah,
I'll
it'll be virtual.
Okay.
It'll be virtual. We'll send out a poll, see what takers we get.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other business from the board or anybody in the audience? So motion to adjourn.
I would motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.